Is out today. Angela Poe Russell is in, and you heard it in Jillian's newscast about this Korean spa.
Yeah, so let's talk about it. Here are a few more details, and then I want to get your thoughts on it. So there was this court ruling, and the result, a well-known women's-only spa in Washington will not be able to bar transgender women from its facilities. Now, Olympus Spa, they have locations in Tacoma, Linwood, and the pool area. And you've been there?
Yes,
okay.
Numerous times.
Clients are nude in the pool area. Okay. It's Christian-owned, traditional Korean spa. They argued in a lawsuit against the state that allowing trans women to enter would violate their First Amendment rights, which guarantees freedom of religious expression. But in a 2-1 opinion, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal said the Washington State Human Rights Commission's enforcement of the anti-discrimination law did not violate the spa's right to freedom of religion. The one dissenting opinion came from a Trump appointee, Judge Kenneth Lee. He said the state's actions against the Korean spa owners targets a racial minority group who want to share their cultural heritage and provide a safe space for women and girls. The Olympus lawsuit stemmed from an incident in 2020, you heard Jillian say, when the spa turned away a customer who called asking if they could receive service. Now, I really think it's important to make this distinction. I already saw one person ask about this, Ursula, on the text line. The employee at Olympus told them they could not come if they had not had gender confirmation surgery. Mm-hmm. So in other words, if you had female parts, then okay to come. But if you've had the surgery to have those. But if you haven't had the surgery and you have the other, then don't. So that was what, and again, so a complaint was filed.
Yes.
Went to this lawsuit.
And when we covered this originally, it sounded like this person, the trans person, was trying to make a point even more so than actually wanting to actually go to Olympus Spa. And this is where I actually agree with the Trump-appointed judge and what is being said here. In this particular situation, I think it is appropriate for them to say, because you are in a space where women are unclothed and you have not gone through that part of the surgery yet, you will definitely be making a lot of people, the vast majority of people who are using this spa, very uncomfortable. And I know that there could be arguments made, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, well, you identify as this, but this is where I think cases like this actually hurt the trans community. And anyone who listens to the show know that both Gee and I are very much in support and we defend the trans community. But I would say that something like this seems unreasonable to expect that you should be able to go and now make all these other people feel extremely vulnerable and uncomfortable, not knowing your story. And I think it just, again, ultimately hurts the trans community altogether.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I want to bring up is the conversations that we have constantly about trans athletes and, what is going on with the situation here in the state of Washington in particular, because under state law, the gender that they identify with is the one that they can compete in. And while not looking at biology or whether you've had gone through puberty, none of that, just how you identify. Yes. And while I will say I support the trans community, I will say that insisting, and this is the first time I'm actually saying this and articulating it on the show, insisting that someone who was born biologically male compete with biological females, I think ultimately hurts the trans community even more. Yeah. And it has been made such a huge issue when we're talking about 5 to 10 athletes total. And I know that there are going to be people who completely disagree with me.
And that's okay. I mean, you're stating your point.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're stating your point.
But I've never actually come out and said that. I will always be in support of the trans community is already so vulnerable and so attacked.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, is this the hill for the Democratic Party? I would say, is this the hill to die on? And when I say that, I don't mean to be dismissive, but I'm saying that this kind of thing where for a lot of people, even who identify as Democrats, this feels unreasonable. And I have to say, I am feeling for that spa right now because I would not want to go there and have to look at
someone
Male
who hasn't
body.
transitioned. Yes.
I don't. And let me just get to a key part of this as I see it. It's empathy. And if you're an individual and you know this is a women's only spa, I likely chose that because that's what I wanted.
That's exactly why I choose
and so
it.
I think we all should practice empathy. And if you're that person that maybe you haven't had the surgery, maybe you could say, you know what? I realize, being empathetic,
Yes.
that this could actually make some people uncomfortable. And maybe there's another spa I can go to.
I think there is, Ursula, you hit the nail on the head, where this was an overzealous trans activist, because there is a 0% chance that somebody who has not had a physical transition would show up at a spa like that. There was one case in California where someone claiming to be trans showed up at an all-women's spa. Turns out that was a convicted sex offender, but no trans person wants that level of scrutiny of their body in that space.
Yes.
And I want to just address your point real quick on the athletes. I don't think you can advance the cause of civil rights for everyone by sacrificing the cause of civil rights for the few. If we look back at 1954, when the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that black students had the right to attend all white schools, well, 3 years later, Little Rock 9, what happened? You know what we don't remember is that at the time, a lot of black leaders were against it, not because they opposed integration, but because they feared the backlash that it would cause.
Yes. And I totally see that correlation. The one difference here is that in this case of sports,
yes,
we're talking about biological advantages on hormones. But
there's a biological advantage with every team. There's always one kid who's better. There's always someone who's a super athlete, but
it's not based on gender.
And
but to your point is not lost though.
Yeah.
And how did you? Because it was put so beautifully.
You can't advance. Yeah, you can't advance the cause of civil rights for everyone by giving up civil rights for a few.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we had the tough
This
conversation.
is so hard. This is also
There's
hard.
so much, and it's not clear cut. But this is why I also sympathize with people who have a different opinion and who are fighting. I don't believe it's the erasure of women, and I think that's a lot of hyperbole.
Right.
But I also understand that people are going to fight and say, you know what? I mean, that isn't fair.
Yeah.
That isn't fair. And I think ultimately it hurts the trans community more.
And let me just ask this. So now, Chef, could you go into that spa and say, well, I'm this? I mean,
I would get the police called on me.
But I'm making the point that
you could.
it leaves.
Yeah, this happened in California. Someone claimed that the police got called, and the person was arrested.
So you think we're taking an extreme?
I think the court made a ridiculous a ridiculous judgment based on the letter of the law, not the intent of the law.
All right, well said.
Okay, so
Ninth
we're
Circuit,
gonna go.
remember?
Okay.